Chapter 10. A Race Against Time. Hugging the heavy ebony and brass chest close, Nancy ran around the far corner of the house and jumped into her car. A push on the starter made the sturdy motor roar into life. Shifting silently and smoothly, Nancy was already up to a speed of 30 miles an hour as the machine left the exit of the Twisted Candles. The highway was clear, and Nancy darted a glance at her rear vision mirror to see if anyone were on the road behind. What she saw reflected there caused her to shove the accelerator button to the floor. Frank Semmet's big car had lurched into the road and was roaring after her. Does he know where I'm going and why? Semmet's car, although left behind by Nancy's first rush, began to crawl up. Past the 60 miles an hour mark swept Nancy's powerful little roadster, but Semmet's car seemed fully as fast. There's no doubt about it. He is after me, Nancy told herself. Either he is going to try to prevent me from bringing Mr. Hill back, or else he saw me with his stolen box. Smith's Ferry was a small community about halfway back to River Heights, but on a diagonal road, a road for which Nancy kept watch eagerly. Soon she detected certain landmarks which told her it was not far ahead, and with that, a strategic plan flashed into her agile brain. She allowed her speed to slacken a little until Semmet's car was less than 50 feet behind. Then she leaped forward again, playing a tantalizing game of tag with the innkeeper. To further her plan, Nancy dared look back over her shoulder a second. The fleeting glance disclosed Sadie's foster father crouching over the wheel of his car, his teeth clenched, his face purple. Nancy, calculating her speed and the road with nice precision, almost passed the Smith's Ferry highway. Then, with a twist of her wheel, she shot into the fork. The snappy little roadster teetered on two wheels as it made the sharp curve at high speed. Crash! Nancy slowed down to glance behind her. A look of relief passed over her pretty face, and then she urged her car forward again. Semmet, in his blind rage, had fallen into the trap. So intent had he been upon passing Nancy's car that her abrupt turn had caught him unaware, and he had shot forward on the road to River Heights. As he had jammed on his brakes, his speeding car had skidded in the gravel and had left the road, crashing through a barbed wire fence. 2 minutes later, Nancy was traversing the main street of Smith's Ferry at a sedate pace. She found the bank without difficulty, parked her machine, picked up the precious ebony box, and entered the financial institution without a hair being out of place or a pleat wrinkled. Only her crimson cheeks and dancing eyes gave any evidence of the excitement through which she had just gone. I should like to speak with Mr. Hill, Mr. Raymond Hill, Nancy told the teller. Have you an appointment? No, but if you will tell him I am from Carson Drew on important business, I am sure he will see me, Nancy replied. The teller smiled, as if amused at the assertion that so young a girl could make important bankers violate rules for any business in which she was concerned. However, there was respect in the clerk's voice when he returned and said that Mr. Hill would see Nancy at once. He proved to be a man of Carson Drew's age, although less muscular and active-looking. What can I do for your father? He asked Nancy. Oh, don't be surprised. I am no detective, but I have often seen your picture on your father's desk in his office, so I know you are his daughter. My father wants you to witness an important document over which there may be some legal trouble, Nancy said directly. My car is outside and I will drive you to the place. It is a matter in which minutes are precious, Mr. Hill. "Then I shall come at once," the banker hastened to reply, jumping up from behind his desk and donning a hat he snatched from a rack. "First, though, I should like to rent a safety deposit vault for this box," Nancy said. "Or, if you will deposit it in your safe, that will be just as well." "That shall be done at once," Mr. Hill said, pressing a button. "Of course, I should like a receipt," Nancy added. "You are a cautious young businesswoman," the banker chuckled. A man in the uniform of a special policeman entered the room in response to the summons, and Mr. Hill gave him the precious box with instructions to place it in the gold vault. "You write your own receipt," he told Nancy. She seized pen and ink, wrote a brief but accurate description of the box, and Mr. Hill signed the paper. "Now, let us be on our way," he said. Nancy escorted the banker to her car, and in less than a minute headed it back toward the sign of the twisted candles. Mr. Hill leaned back in the seat without speaking, although his eyes traveled nervously to the speedometer from time to time. Just as the end of the road came into view, an automobile darted into it, and as Nancy swept by, she saw from the corner of her eye that it was Semmet's. A second glance in the mirror showed the innkeeper standing up, shaking both fists over his head at the retreating machine. A few minutes later, Nancy swerved into the driveway of the old mansion and brought her car to an easy halt at the steps of the twisted candles. "I'm not being kidnapped, am I?" Mr. Hill joked as he stepped out of the machine. "What is this place, and where is Mr. Drew?" As if in answer to his question, the lawyer stepped out onto the piazza and greeted the banker. "You made excellent time," he said to Nancy. "I scarcely expected you to have reached Smith's Ferry yet. None of the interference we have feared has made its appearance as yet." Mr. Hill followed Mr. Drew into the house, and Nancy sat down on the steps to allow her tense nerves and muscles to relax. Her mind, however, did not relax. She wondered what Semmet would say to her when they met again, for they inevitably would have to meet. She wondered, too, at the contents of the box and at the crisis in the affairs of Mr. Sidney that made her father so concerned. "I wonder if it affects Sadie in any way," Nancy pondered. "Wouldn't it be splendid if Mr. Sidney were to leave her some money in his will? Perhaps he will bequeath her the house, and then she will be the owner of the twisted candles, and the Semmets will be her employees." The idea pleased Nancy. She wished there was some way in which to put the thought into Asa Sidney's mind before his will was signed and sealed. "Perhaps if I put my mind to it, the thought will come to Mr. Sidney now," Nancy mused. However, that very important idea was driven from Nancy's mind at the sight of an automobile speeding along the road toward the inn. "Here comes Semmet," she said to herself. "Now for the showdown." It was not Semmet's car, however, that skidded to a halt in front of the tea room, nor was he in the second car which arrived a moment afterward from the opposite direction. However, when Nancy realized who the arrivals were, she felt her heart skip a beat. End of chapter 10.